want to say, okay, so now we have covered what a typical monitoring report would look like. We have covered what a typical evaluation report would look like. I've given you the templates for that. The question is, so what does an impact report look like? Okay? And we had to develop this over time. The question, however, is not what is the content of an impact report. The question should rather be, when we publish these monitoring reports, these evaluation reports, who's going to read it? For whom are we assessing all this information? And so what I wanted to share with you is, you've also, when you develop your performance measurement system, very clearly understand who's going to be looking for what data. Let me tell you, the Social and Ethics Committee are not going to be interested in your monitoring reports. They most probably only want to see half-yearly evaluation reports. So the point that I want to make here is, at what stage of what project portfolio are we going to provide them with what kind of content? And that's what I just wanted to say here. Probably for the board, we're looking at very short, high-impact kind of data. Whereas if you look, for instance, at beneficiaries, because you do want to go back into engagement, you're not going to give them the monitoring data and the evaluation. What are you going to share? You're going to extrapolate the data. You're going to focus on pictures. You're going to focus on very specific narratives in that kind of communication. So it's typically a presentation. It's not going to be one of these reports. Let's be blank and honest about it. So the point that I want to make here is, once your data starts coming in, you've got to segment those different types of information for the different types of audiences. So remember, and this is what Shalene also shared with us, the amount of data that practitioners deal with is enormous. And it comes in all sorts of formats, from PDFs to Excel spreadsheets, to pictures, to little handwritten notes by children. What are we going to do? So also understand, there's going to be program information, there's going to be pictures, there is going to be letters, there's going to be monitoring reports, there's going to be reports about human resources, there's going to be reports about budgets and finance, there's going to be kind of key lessons learned, there's going to be challenge circumstances where things went wrong. So we've got to be very clear in how we segment those types of data. So the point that I want to make here is, you've got to be very clear what is the message to which stakeholder group, in which media or medium you're going to share that information with. So I've just shared with you here, so typically external communications is to get buy-in and get support. This is the marketing, the PR value. So there's a specific format that you want to present that information in, as opposed to the kind of information you want to share with other funders at conferences. When you write up your case studies for employees, what is the kind of message? You don't want to bog them down with the detail of the information, but you want to show participation. So you're looking for different kind of pieces of information, either to encourage volunteerism, to strengthen the brand, or because it's a legal requirement, a compliance requirement, to report to the Social Ethics Committee that must issue that statement at the annual general meeting. So when we talk about communicating impacts, I always ask practitioners to consider different levels. Don't just focus on the numbers. Because if I read sustainability and integrated reports, everybody can tell me how much they've spent, probably geographically where they've spent it, probably at a high level where they've spent it, which focus area, on which target group they've spent it. But you can hear all of this is quantitative data. None of it is really narrative, qualitative data. So I'm just saying, think about social impact, think about environmental impact, think about economic impact. When you speak about economic impact, speak about the value created, the income generated. Show about how you provided access to markets and how they've been able to become self-sufficient. That is the story. We don't want to tell them it was 3 women, you know, and it was a cooperative and they learned to make bricks, and there the story stops. And there's the picture of the brick making machine. That doesn't tell us, was it good or bad? And it's only when we start interrogating the data like we did earlier with the NDA report, like the pictures tell the story, but what does the word say? Okay, so that is my concern with reports. So communication, I beg your pardon, is really becoming a very, I want to say on the one hand, time-consuming a requirement. And I think it speaks to my comment yesterday morning when I said, I don't know when last people's websites were updated. I don't know if they're so busy saying yes and no to all those applications that's coming in that they forget to share other stories across other platforms. So I just want to say, consider as much as you have a schedule for monitoring and evaluation, that you also have a schedule for communication. We can't just communicate with employees around Mandela Day. Do you know what I'm saying? So we've got to understand that participation is only going to peak around that time, and then we're thinking, but nobody wants to contribute to our programs. They don't want to add money in matched funding, or they don't want to contribute their time or skills. It's because we've never made them aware of actually what's happening in our social investments. And just in closing on communication, if you really want to measure return on investment around communication, public relations, branding, customer, you've also got to measure this. You've got to measure how many times were you mentioned in the media. You've got to measure literally the centimeters per column, because that gives you a very clear indication of the value that you've contributed. Let me give you an example. EdCon runs the Community Builder program every year. It's like a competition. Breweries is now running the social innovation competition. Now, in EdCon's case, the prize money is R1 million. And there is about 20 to 30, depending on every year, what the request is. It's unrestricted funding. So they can ask for funding for anything that gets awarded. And so this R1 million gets split by 20 to 30 organizations. That's not the point. The point is we have measured the publicity generated by literally using unit standards of centimeters per column, because that's what you're going to pay for the space, to the value of 23 million rand. So if I had to apply the SRI methodology on PR value, return on investment, I would say it was 1 to 23. For every 1 rand, there was 23 in return. They've spent 1 million rand, they got 23 million rands worth of publicity. Was that a good program or a bad program? No, that's not what we want to understand. The point that I just want to make is, as much as you're starting to measure now every aspect of your practice, you've even got to measure return and communication. So that's the point that I want to make there. I, about 2 weeks ago, speak about social return on investment. This was published on LinkedIn. This is work that was done by SRK, and I found this fascinating. Sorry, it not SRK, it was ERM. Yes, my competitors. The reason why this got my eye, because it really rattled my cage, because this is my impact assessment. But what they've been able to do here, and this is the value of communication, is they have done a social impact assessment of an orphan vulnerable overseas program. And when they engaged the community to understand what is the difference this program made, the community told them this. And it was for me a very big aha moment. Because we think, and this is why I included this in the communication section, we think we need to tell a lot of stories and long reports. But can you reduce your impact on an infographic? The amount of comments that they got on just the awareness of how do we visually communicate. We don't have to write a newsletter. We don't have to write a case study. I'm just saying, think differently in the space that we operate. We're doing this for beneficiaries, then make beneficiaries part of this communication process. So this was, like I said, a very big aha moment for me, and it is so clear. I've got to share it with you. So you can see here they've actually mapped it across SDGs as well, but the community have said, you know, you were involved in the orphanages, and they've mapped the whole road, and there was home visits, and there was education support, there was safe parks, you know, there were medical support, there was aftercare. And then they've included the little comments about what is the difference it made for me. So I just wanted to share this with you because I think it is a very powerful communication tool. So that's why I shared that with